honored to have Tim Simmons to Uruguay. You'll probably hear throughout it's Uruguay, but he will probably say Uruguay. So if you hear that, you're not saying it wrong. It's just how they pronounce it. And so we were just joking about that off camera. And so Tim, we are so excited to have you. We're excited to have you. I guess the first question, which need to get out of the way because I know everyone's going to be upset if I don't ask. How did you meet your wife? That's what I need to hear first.
Okay. So I'm from Ohio. She's from Wisconsin. But we met actually the very first week of Bible college.
Okay.
And we were on the same bus division. The Bible college we went to had a lot of different bus routes and met on the same bus division. And we still disagree on exactly when we met.
Okay.
She thinks it was on the bus route. I think it was at a hallway there at the college. And the bus route sounds more spiritual,
right?
I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so we'll go with that. Yeah. And we started dating ever since then, and so got married our senior year.
That's exciting.
And so we had both had an interest in missions from a young age, and it was just meant to be. So
okay, so I'm assuming you made the first move, right?
I don't know. I think it was both of us.
Okay.
I don't know. All right. Yeah. Well, I think she actually caught my eye.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll let it settle. We'll let it settle. Okay. So tell us, how long have you been on Deputation?
So our official first meeting was March of 2018
at
my home church's missions conference. We didn't go full time until the fall of 2018, October. And so since then, it's been about 2 years and I guess 5 months.
Okay. So 2 years, 5 months.
Yeah.
And you guys are really sitting at that 100% committed. I mean, 100%.
Yeah, right about there. We're trying to raise a little bit more,
okay,
just in case. But yeah, we're just about done.
Gotcha.
Praise the Lord for that.
Okay. Now, we just heard from Brother Hodges, who said he had raised his support. He raised about 80% of his support. 100% in 2 years is kind of unheard of. I mean, really, if you think about most missionaries, I think the average is 3 to 5 years before they're getting 100%. Is that correct?
Yeah, 2 years. Some do go to about 4 years. Okay. I have heard 5 years. That's on the long end of it.
Okay. Right. What have you found to be effective in getting meetings, raising support? What have you found to be effective and ineffective?
Just persistence with pastors. Just keep calling. It doesn't feel like it's productive a lot of times. You leave a lot of voicemails, send a lot of emails that don't get answered. Yeah. But just that persistence a lot of times pays off. Gotcha. You'll get pastors calling you back and wanting to schedule meetings. And so that's been a big blessing for us. It's helped us to get into a lot of churches. I don't know what hasn't been effective. I mean, I don't know. I could probably think of different things in that area. So
on average, how many phone calls do you find yourself making a day?
Oh man, I don't make so many now, obviously, towards the end. But early on, I mean, I would spend a full work day, 8 hours, 10 hours.
Wow.
Making phone calls and emails, I mean.
Full-time job.
Early on just to build up a full schedule of meetings,
Okay.
And so.
All right. Now, when is the last time you visited, seen, maybe did like a survey trip to Uruguay? When's the last time you were actually on Uruguay soil?
That was 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so we went there fall of 2017 for almost a month.
Okay.
And our whole family went, and we had a great time, visited several different missionaries, but just haven't had a chance to go since on Deputation. Yeah. We thought about going during COVID and all of that when we had a lot of meetings get canceled, but we found out we couldn't get back into the U.S.
Right.
And so then that would mess us up on the Deputation side of things. And so we just opted to stay here.
Gotcha. So, and now when he says whole family, there's a total family of 5, correct?
5 now, but 4 at the time when we took our trip. Right,
Yeah, so there's a new baby girl. That's exciting. So 2 boys and a girl. The 2 boys are a handful, let me tell you. We met them last night, and they're fun. They're energetic. they're little boys, so that's what they are.
Exactly.
All right, tell me about, in a few sentences, tell me about your heart for Uruguay. Obviously, having visited, you kind of interacted with some of the people. Tell me about how the Lord led you to Uruguay, but also tell me about your heart for the Uruguayan people.
Okay. Yeah, I surrendered to be a missionary when I was 15. Okay. I went to Bible college for that. And then after Bible college, I interned. And then that's when I learned about Uruguay and found out that it was the least evangelized country there in Latin America. And so that's why we took a survey trip there. and that's why we feel like the Lord's calling us back there. But just a country where the people they're not anti, church or anti-religion or anti-God. They just didn't grow up, going to church, didn't
Right.
grow up hearing about the Bible, hearing the gospel. And so it's just not just part of their regular life. Like it is to many people here in America, it's just kind of a tradition, and so they didn't grow up that way. And so, we're really burdened about just trying to plant churches there and trying to reach them with the gospel. And just, we know it's going to take a lot longer, to lead someone to the Lord. We're starting in the beginning with many people, explaining what the Bible is, explaining, why, Genesis 1:1, where the world came from, and developing a relationship with them before we can even give them the gospel.
Gotcha.
And so, but they're very friendly, very warm. I mean, if they trust you and they have a relationship with you, they'll listen to you, and they'll listen to the gospel, and they'll get saved eventually many times. Yeah. So it just takes a lot more time.
Now, you mentioned obviously Uruguay being the least evangelized country in South America. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. What, to your knowledge, what kind of contributes to that? I mean, obviously we have missionaries that are going to South America.
Right.
But why not Uruguay?
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. When you think of South America or Latin America, Central South America, the number one religion, of course, is Catholicism. Everyone knows that. Most countries are 80 to 90% Catholic. Uruguay is only about 40% Catholic.
Okay.
And that's why I would say the least evangelized, because the rest are either atheist, agnostic, or some other, small religions. But the reason for that, that it's only 40% Catholic is because in the early 1900s, these Catholic missionaries went into Uruguay, wanted to start a big Catholic presence there, and they basically rejected it and said, we don't want that. And so that's one reason. Now also, I think 50 years ago, there was a dictatorship there in Uruguay, and they were very, I guess, atheistic, didn't want any religions there.
Gotcha.
And so that kind of bleeded into the culture, where they don't want anything to do with religion and things like that. So,
gotcha.
So as a whole, religion has never had a big stronghold on the country, which I kind of look at as a positive,
right?
Because I think the two biggest hindrances to people getting saved is religion and riches, right?
I agree.
And so the people are not steeped in religion, and there's a big middle class there, so now they are a prosperous country, but they're not steeped in religion. So I think that helps, in that area.
Yeah, definitely. In the South, everyone's grandma and everyone's aunt is a preacher, so it's hard to evangelize because you're like, oh, my grandma's a preacher, and I'm like, okay,
They know all the lingo, they know all that, but sometimes when you dig deeper, you find out they're really not saved. So,
right.
Yeah,
definitely.
But
now, obviously, you said you started Deputation kind of fall of 2018.
Right.
How did Deputation look? I guess pre-COVID, and how did COVID affect Deputation?
Okay. Now, I know most missionaries probably wouldn't say this, but Deputation during COVID or during 2020 was actually really good for us.
Really?
And I hate to say that sometimes because I know it was very difficult for many people, and many other missionaries I know were very hurt by during COVID.
Right.
But we had about 7 weeks when we had most of our meetings get canceled. We had two meetings during that time. One was we went to a church and they had a live stream meeting, and one was outside. I preached to people in a park, in their cars in the parking lot, which was a neat experience. Yeah. It rained the entire time, but thankfully I had a tent over me. But we started 2020 with about 45% of our support. Okay. And we finished with about 90%. Wow. So our support literally doubled last year. And so it was a big blessing for us. And God worked. I mean, I was, I thought, most churches were going to cancel, and I thought that maybe, we'd lose support even, but God blessed, and it ended up being a really good year.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's really uncommon. I mean, I know that in the churches we've seen, I think we expected, tithe, we expected the offering to drop, but really that's sustained. And so it's a blessing to hear that even in your ministry and your deputation that COVID didn't affect it too much. What is Uruguay best known for?
I know for a few things. I know beef is probably the big one.
Okay.
There's 3.5 cows for every person.
Yeah.
And I mean, they make really good steak. If you like good steak, come to Uruguay, and it's very inexpensive. So that's one of the biggest things it's known for. Of course, soccer.
Yeah.
They won the first ever World Cup. They haven't won another one
Since,
since then,
yeah,
but
yeah.
they won that one, and then they've won a few other, smaller titles. But yeah, soccer is huge there,
Gotcha.
and they actually do really well against some other bigger countries.
Okay.
So
Good. Now, as far as the Uruguayan people, what do you imagine, or what have you seen in conversations with veteran missionaries and other people? What do you believe is going to be the greatest difficulty in getting the gospel to them?
I think just apathy, just general apathy of the people. There's a word they use in Spanish called tranquilo or tranquilo, and just basically means like I'm okay, I'm fine, and they're just kind of coasting through life. Like I said earlier, they didn't grow up in church.
Right.
Religion didn't have an impact on their parents or grandparents, and so they don't see how it's going to have an impact on them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the young people growing
Right.
up, and so just kind of going through life, don't see any need for, the Bible, for church,
Yeah.
and just apathetic towards it and very complacent. And so we're just trying to pray and want to work, of course, to try to shake them out of that, and help them to see truth of the gospel. And I mean, that'll definitely be a big hindrance there. Yeah.
Now, taking that a step further, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, in your presentation last night, you had mentioned that the suicide rate in Uruguay is extremely high. And so I find it interesting that you say, there's a tranquila or yeah. And so I'm assuming the idea there is being in tranquility, being this idea of I'm at peace, but at the same time, it's this false peace because a lot of them are committing suicide. Do you think that the Hispanic culture kind of lends to that idea of, machismo, this idea of I'm okay, but things really aren't okay? Do you think that kind of lends to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, they on the outside can look fine, like going through life, everyone, they're well, it's a pretty modern country. So, I mean, everyone's pretty well taken care of. They've got the basic necessities of life. And so on the outside, they look like everything's fine. But yeah, I agree. Yeah. On the inside though, there's many people that are deeply hurting and they know that, living life and with no religion, no church, it's ultimately, of course, meaningless, right? And
exactly.
And ultimately hopeless. And I think, of course, that's where it leads to the depression and the suicide ultimately. And we all know that, as Christians,
right?
But you can see that, in other cultures that don't believe in God.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I understand. I agree. Looking at obviously doing a survey trip, you have an idea of what the land looks like there. And I think your wife even said you guys found a place. You have a couple different options.
Right, just Airbnbs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What is something that I guess either tangible or intangible would make life easier on the mission field? I know you can't really speak to that in too much because you haven't been there yet, but maybe some things you've been warned about. Hey, try to bring this, try to do that. Anything along those lines?
That make life easier. I mean, thankfully, it looks like the Airbnbs we'll be staying in are pretty modern. They're in the capital. So a lot of those places there in the capital will have a lot of the amenities that we'll have from the States. And so that'll help. Now, we would like to get a car early on, and that'll definitely make things a lot easier, especially for my wife. She doesn't want to go to the grocery store. Well, you have to go to multiple places to get all your groceries.
Okay.
And so having one vehicle to be able to do all that would definitely help. But
now, are vehicles easy to come by in Uruguay, or
they're very expensive?
Okay.
Obviously everything's imported.
Right.
And so we'll be spending a lot of money to get a vehicle, early on.
Gotcha.
But hopefully it'll be a good vehicle that'll last us for a long time.
Gotcha.
And so we've already saved up for that.
Good.
So
Good.
Yep.
Now, as far as the government there in Uruguay now, are they pretty receptive, pretty open? Are you able to get into schools? I mean, I know the schooling system there is public education is probably
Right.
a big thing. Are you able to have a ministry in the public schools?
As of now, I don't know.
Okay,
As of now, no, we can't get into the schools or even the universities.
gotcha.
And we would really like to. And my wife is actually working on like a counseling degree,
Okay,
specifically geared towards like people with depression, suicide, other things as well. And we'd love to be able to offer that as maybe like alternative, like counseling,
Right.
you know. And so maybe they'll allow us to do something like that into the schools.
gotcha.
But to come in as missionaries and say we'd like to
Right.
be able to teach the Bible, preach the Bible, as of now, no, they won't allow that.
Okay.
You know, they have separation of church and state
Okay.
in their constitution, just like we have.
Mhm.
But they take it even further than we do here in America,
Yeah.
and they don't allow missionaries, you know, into the public schools. So
Okay.
we'll see. When we're praying about that, we'd love to be able to have a
Yeah,
ministry
that'd be
do
pretty
that.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, Kate, been on Deputation for a little over two years now. I guess if you could speak to Tim back in 2018, started Deputation, what's something you would have told them or told him when you first started Deputation? What's something you know now that you wish you would have known back then?
Just be persistent. Yeah, just
Okay.
stick with it. You know, I mean, there's definitely discouraging times. You know, and I went through my fair share where, you know, we went several months and we didn't have any churches take us on, and that can be discouraging as a
Yeah.
missionary. And you're thinking, okay, what am I doing wrong? And some of that's good. You know, you want to be able to look back and say, okay, what can I do better? And
Right.
maybe improve, you know, how you present and, you know, improve how you preach, things like that. You know, and but you know, you can judge yourself too much and
Right,
think,
yeah.
okay, you know,
Too critical. Yeah.
exactly, and you can think that, you know what, I'm not doing anything right, and you know, I'm a failure, and
Right.
you can begin, you know, feeling really depressed. And so, but just realize that, you know what, every missionary has gone through this, you know, and just stay with it, and eventually you'll get your support.
Okay.
So, and God's blessed.
I guess question for you would be, what is the biggest, biggest surprise, biggest God thing that's happened since you've started Deputation?
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. So I think most of it would revolve around our vehicle, actually.
Okay.
And I'll explain this. The vehicle we have right now is actually we're basically renting it
Okay.
from a church in Texas. I just got it about a week ago. Before that, early on in Deputation, we were actually given a 2006 Honda Odyssey from another missionary
Wow.
in 2018, December of 2018, and he was leaving for language school, and he just gave it to us. That's been a tremendous blessing. We got the van at 318,000 miles.
Wow.
We put on close to 100,000 miles. But let's see here, a week and a half ago on February 21st, the head gasket
Okay.
blew on the van in Michigan.
Yeah.
But it was amazing how God worked that out. You know, we broke down right near a supporting church. I was able to call that pastor. A mechanic came out and gave us the bad news, but then he helped us to get the van to a good place and helped us to find a place to stay that night. And then the church that we were going to be at the next day, actually down in Alabama, they provided a rental van for us to drive down there.
Really?
You know, and use that for a few days. And then I was able to find this other van in Texas, and you know, a nice 2012 minivan.
Mm-hmm.
And basically we'll pay about $1,500 for the next several months until we leave for the field.
Wow.
To use this van. You know, nice van with I think about 112,000 miles on it.
Okay.
And
Wow.
So just amazing how God worked all that out to break down right near a supporting church.
Right.
You know, someone was able to come out right then and help us.
That's awesome.
And so God's been really good. So that van, having a free van that we've used for the
Right.
past 2 years, you know, then when that died, and I basically told God, I said, we'll drive this van as long as it works, you know, as long as it's
Till it dies. Yeah.
worth driving. And then, you know, once it dies, then we'll figure something out, and God provided.
Wow.
So,
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Now, you made a brief mention that you guys are planning on leaving by the end of this year, correct?
well, hopefully in May,
Okay.
you know, but yeah, I mean, definitely no later than the end of the year.
Gotcha. Now, you shared a little bit last night that COVID's not going to affect you guys getting in. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So officially, we're not supposed to be able to get into Uruguay because officially only residents and citizens can get in. But we found out that there are some exceptions that Uruguay has, and one of them is if we're students.
Okay.
And we're already planning to be students at the language school when we first get there for at least the first year. And that is one of the exceptions, and that should allow our family to get in. Even though technically they're not letting other people in, and so that was a tremendous answer to prayer. Otherwise it could be another 6 months, could be a year, who knows, before we could get in. So that's been a big blessing.
Cost of living in Uruguay, is it pretty expensive to live there? Okay.
Yeah, especially in the capital.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the capital. I mean, rent in the capital's at least $1,000 generally a month.
Okay.
Sometimes upwards of $2,000 a month.
Wow.
And that's what we would like to be able to purchase a home, just kind of a fixer-upper home.
Right.
And in the long run, that would save us a tremendous amount of money.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, gasoline's about $6 or $7 a gallon, and of course anything that's imported, very expensive. And so, but fruits and vegetables,
right,
very cheap.
Very cheap. Well, at the rate we're going, America will be at $6 to $7.
Well,
I don't know. We'll see.
That's why we're leaving.
Exactly. All right. So, obviously, from our end, from the church side, from church staff, we obviously we highlight the importance of giving to missions and things like that. From a missionary side of it, tell me or tell our listeners, what's the response or what's the feeling that you get when you get a phone call of like, hey, we just voted, we're going to take you guys on for support? Kind of talk about the behind the scenes, feeling that you receive when you get that.
It's definitely an excited feeling, knowing that there's another church that's partnering with us. I use the word partnering because they're not giving money and then we're going to the field, to reach the people, although that is part of it.
Right.
We're partnering with them and they're helping us, to get to the field to reach Uruguay, but we're also helping them to be able to reach a country that they couldn't otherwise reach. And so it's exciting to be able to partner with other churches. And of course, when I get that phone call, I'm excited. I'm always surprised, when I get those phone calls. But I'm always very excited when I hear that, there's another church that wants to partner with us.
Good.
And so we have quite a few right now. I think we have about 75 churches that are partnering with it. We've been praying for 80.
Wow.
That's what we're praying for. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. Last question for you. I kind of warned him this is going to be the most difficult question. If you could step into my shoes, if you could interview any missionary, what's one question you would ask that missionary?
I think, what are you passionate about?
Okay.
What is something you're passionate about? And
so I'm going to ask you,
what
are you passionate about?
I have no idea. No, I'm just kidding. Well, one thing that I've always enjoyed, and we talked about this a little bit before, was discipleship. And I always love taking new Christians and who some of them have a little bit of knowledge of the Bible, some don't, starting from all different walks of life and just walking them down this, path of discipleship, and I realize it's not necessarily a book, but that just having that relationship with this other person and helping them to grow and, trying to answer their questions, I've seen how it's helped, numerous Christians grow and want to not only learn a little bit more about the Bible, but grow in their walk and want to be faithful to church, and want to do more for God. Yeah. And so I really love discipleship, and definitely something we're gonna do on the field, as early on as we can. Yeah. And we want to have people over our home, they're on the field, and be able to just sit down with a little discipleship book and go through it. Yeah. And something we're very passionate about.
I think it's amazing that you brought that up because I know the heart, one of the missions and focus of Pastor Wiley is, relational discipleship. And I know that especially in Hispanic culture, that's a huge thing about before you even witness to them, you need to have a relationship with them. And so, no, I know that I speak on behalf of Pastor Wiley, I speak on behalf of our church, and we're excited that the Lord's going to use you in Uruguay. And so, maybe one day we'll do another podcast in which you will come back and tell us about everything the Lord's done. But in the meantime, we'll definitely be praying for you guys, praying for safety. Traveling with 3 kids, that is that in and of itself that needs patience from the Lord. That is long suffering. That is, no one can ever say you don't have long suffering and patience. And so we'll definitely be praying for you. We've been excited to have you as part of our missions conference thus far. He gets the night off tonight. He doesn't have to present tonight. Amen. So, but we are looking forward to that, and we appreciate you coming on the podcast. And we'll be praying for your endeavors.